Welcome to the Crypto Simulation. I'm the Gaussian Snake. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about Ethereum and if I feel that Ethereum season is coming soon or not. Be sure to follow me and Telegram at the Snake Pit to join 175 other crypto investors who've been with me for almost 2 months now on this journey. So nothing I say in this video is intended to be financial advice. Please always do your own research. From the looks of it, this is Ethereum USD on the monthly. We can see some things starting to happen that are making me feel really bullish about what's coming for ETH. So if you look back at past moves of Ethereum dating back here to 2017, you can see that when we enter into the upper region of the weighted logarithmic Bollinger Bands, that usually indicates a mania season coming for Ethereum. We did that. You can see we almost went straight up in 2017. Then in 2020, we kind of went in a less straight up kind of way. And you can see that that process seems to be starting again now. So I feel like we're on the doorstep of a very bullish Ethereum season. But you would never know it if you were looking at ETH Bitcoin and you didn't know what to look for. But when you zoom out, you can see that Ethereum actually looks quite bullish, being in the upper region of the weighted logarithmic Bollinger Band on the monthly, which it actually entered into in October of last year. It was kind of chopping around. It's been an incredibly strong asset, second only to Bitcoin. So what can we expect from Ethereum and the Ethereum ecosystem, which has been kind of disappointing in the past few months for a lot of people who've been invested in those projects? Well, let's dive in and find out. Now, this is ETH Bitcoin on the monthly, and you can see that I've drawn this trend line and try to get through as many data points as I could. And I drew this like red box to indicate what I feel could be the final resting place for ETH Bitcoin in its bear market. So ETH Bitcoin has been in a technical bear market, I would say arguably for some time. You can go back to maybe December of 2021, I would say that's where its bear market began. And so it's been in a bear market for like nearly 3 years. This was, to me, more of a dead cat bounce, although it did technically put in a higher high. I don't know if I would really count that as bullish when it's sinking like this. Anyways, we are underneath the mean line of the weighted logarithmic Bollinger Bands, although we have been tapping up against it. We've also recently fallen through the lower yellow trend line out. I put this red region down here, which goes from about 0.30 to 0.042 or so. And it's just a rough drawing to represent the horizontal support that Ethereum Bitcoin has. Doesn't mean we have to go down there. But if we were to capitulate, that would be my guess as to where we might go. And maybe we go to the very top. I honestly have a hard time seeing ETH Bitcoin get below 0.04. And I want to show you why I think that the bear market for Ethereum against Bitcoin may be coming to an end fairly soon. Now, ETH Bitcoin on the weekly looks rather nasty. You can see that we did have a pretty nice capitulation all the way down from 0.06 to around 0.05. That kind of finished off in October of 23. We actually fell out of the Bollinger Band. So when you're kind of like, hugging the Bollinger Band like this, generally a sign of capitulation. It's the opposite of what happens in an uptrend. And then we just kind of been chopping around. Now, we did break this lower trend line. We actually wicked below it in January, tested it again, wicked below it in February, and finally broke below it in March. So it makes me think that we could see another leg down. And, I don't know if it's going to be a nasty leg down, or for all we know, we could just kind of chop sideways here for a while. But that's where I've drawn this red region, just kind of as an illustration of what I think could happen. Doesn't mean that it has to happen, but, if we were to just speculate, maybe we see another move like this, or maybe we don't even make it that far, It's really hard to say. I mean, who knows, honestly. But I think whatever the case may be, I don't think that there's much bearish momentum left for Ethereum. And the reason I say that is because if you go back to here, you can see that it entered its red Gaussian channel in May of 2023. It's been in a red Gaussian channel for almost a full year. And if you go back to previous bear markets for ETH, how long did those bear markets last? Now this was a more dramatic one because ETH had more volatility against Bitcoin back here. But you see the Gaussian turned red in September of 2018, and the inflection point of the Gaussian channel was 1 year later in September of 2019. And it's the inflection point in the Gaussian channel where you inflect from concave down, hill-shaped, to concave up, valley-shaped. That's where the bull market begins. It doesn't begin when the Gaussian is green. It actually begins in a red Gaussian. So if we apply that same logic, and bear markets rarely last more than a year, by the time that we entered into this May of 2023, we were well into the bear market by then. We would expect that by May 2024, we should be completely bottomed out. Now that bottom could come sooner, but even if it doesn't, let's say that it takes us 2 months. We're already almost in April, so we don't have to wait that much longer. So maybe Bitcoin kind of does its thing and rallies into the halving and then dumps, finds a floor somewhere in May, and maybe by that time we can see Ethereum start to really show some strength and take us into DeFi Summer 2.0. So that's what I'm seeing in Ethereum for now, as Ethereum currently is at 0.05150. Well, I just went to whatever. Bitcoin. I'm not bullish on it right now, but I am bullish on it pretty soon. It's possible we don't even go down this far, right? We could just chop around, but seeing us break this long-term trend line, if you zoom out, this is a significant thing. I think odds are we are going to capitulate, and I think we'll ride that lower weighted logarithmic regression Bollinger Band on the way down. And so this is going to be bearish for Ethereum and the entire Ethereum ecosystem. But I think it will provide that necessary reset to bring us into a brand new bull market for Ethereum against Bitcoin, and where I think Bitcoin is going to start to lose strength against Ethereum and bleed to Ethereum. Here's another reason why I think Ethereum's bear market against Bitcoin might be coming to an end soon. This is the average sentiment oscillator on the monthly. It's bullish when the green curve is going this way and the red's going down this way. It's bearish when green is approaching red and red is going up, or red is above green. So right now you can see that the bear market for Ethereum Bitcoin, again, this is on the monthly, is in full swing. And if you were to draw a trend line, you can see that we are still a little ways off from probably our final destination of bearishness. Once this thing hits here, this is like a bottoming process, right? This is a great way to visualize it. If we get this high, which I think we will, we have a final capitulation and flush out of Ethereum. I think we'll see it ride this trend line for a little bit, and then the red will fall, green will go up, and we're going to have a nice long bull market for ETH. So I think around May is a reasonable time to expect this to bottom. I mean, we could even bottom in April at the earliest, but I would say May at the latest. And I would expect us to have a fantastic summer. I think DeFi Summer 2.0, it's on. I'm very encouraged by the Snabble RSI. While it looks absolutely horrific, getting down below 20 is actually a very bullish sign, because it indicates that we are likely to have some bullish divergence. So maybe we have to come down and tap this again. Notice that in 2019 we only had to tap it once, so it's possible we don't even make it that far. We could put in a higher low, which would be bullish, and start to turn the tide. Again, I'm thinking sometime in May, April at the earliest. So I'm showing you the Snabble RSI and the average sentiment oscillator, these different indicators, just to kind of say they're saying the same thing, which is that the bear market for ETH Bitcoin is coming to an end soon. I've been hearing so much FUD for Matic, Polygon. Makes me sick to my stomach. Granted, Polygon is my largest altcoin holding by far. I hold a lot of Polygon relative to my other altcoin positions, and I just hear people fudding it. I myself have found myself getting frustrated with it. It's like, it just hasn't moved in a while. But let's look back. This is Matic Bitcoin on the monthly, and sometimes it just helps to zoom out. Look at this measured move that Matic had against Bitcoin. Okay, it was insane. What is that? 12,216x? But when did this occur? This occurred in the middle of 2021 in May of 2021. And then things got a little bit bearish. Just looks like Ethereum. Matic basically is Ethereum. And we've sliced through the line in the sand. We made a little M for Matic. And we're heading down to what I think is a zone of probable support, which is around 800 Satoshis or so, give or take. We could go lower. I think Matic will have a more violent capitulation than ETH, so it's possible that we even go down to here. It certainly doesn't feel good while you're going down, but I think Matic's bear market will end probably around the same time Ethereum's ends. I do think Ethereum will outperform Polygon in the beginning, but we know that Polygon tends to outperform afterwards. So this is exciting because if Polygon can find support in this region and it doesn't go all the way back down here, which I don't think it's going to, that really points to Polygon potentially being an outperformer against Bitcoin, right? Because if it comes down here, let's just draw out a measured move. Let's say it does something like, this going into, we'll say May, and then kind of crabs around here for a little while. I should have grabbed the path drawing tool, but it's okay. I usually screw that thing up. We could see some pretty nice moves out of, maybe we put in a double top, or let's be more than a double top. I think we'll hit some resistance in this area for sure. But one of the things about Polygon is it tends to run kind of late. Now I'm really wishing I was using the path drawing tool, but it's too late. So I'm just making this up. I have no clue if this is actually going to play out. Okay, don't take this to the bank. But I think there's actually a pretty decent chance that Matic puts in a higher high against Bitcoin this bull cycle. It depends, of course, where it puts in a low, but something like that could happen. We know that Matic does run late. So I'm thinking Matic will really start to show a lot of strength probably in May as well, and major strength probably more towards the middle of the summer or maybe even the end of the summer. Although what's major? What is major? I mean, look at how this thing moved like crazy. May, June, so this was January 2021, February 2021, March, April, 5 green months in a row. Actually, 6 green months in a row against, no, it's 5. 5 green months in a row against Bitcoin. So we could see something similar play out again this summer. Everything seems to be shifted by about 6 months. So maybe instead of starting to run in January, Polygon starts to run in June. Now remember what I said about Ethereum? Ethereum's Gaussian turned red in May of 2023. Matic's turned red in July. So I think that Matic is going to run a little bit behind Ethereum. It could bottom around the same time, but I don't think it will recover as fast. And Matic ETH also looks bad. This thing looks like it's ready to fall off of a cliff. So it looks like it's just ready to spill out here into a capitulation. And I think that's likely to happen if Ethereum capitulates, which is my base case against Bitcoin. Whether it's on a Bitcoin dump or a Bitcoin pump, that I don't know. But I expect if this turned red in July, then I expect around July is where we'll see the inflection point of the Gaussian channel. I mean, it doesn't have to last a full year, but generally a year is what I'm expecting. So maybe in July we start to see Matic really start to show some strength and climb up towards the Gaussian channel and slice through it. Could slice through it in July. That's when it could happen. And when it slices, it slices. So if I had to make a prediction about Polygon showing major strength, so I'm saying Ethereum will probably show major strength in like May or June. I'm leaning more towards the May time frame, but really who cares, just a month or two. So we'll say late spring. I would say Polygon is likely to start showing some serious strength in June or July. Okay, so it's going to run about a month, probably a month or two behind Ethereum. And we can see that in the Matic ETH chart. I know this chart looks scary, but keep in mind, and this actually doesn't have a full history to it. This is Matic ETH, so I'm probably looking on the wrong exchange, but even if I'm not, let's see, this goes back, yeah, this is not the complete chart, but it's okay. There's this trend line that we've tapped a few times and we finally have broken through it. Imagine this went, a lot lower before, but I'm looking at the wrong chart here, but it doesn't matter. Okay, Gaussian's been red since July of 23. So I think once ETH starts going, Matic might lag a little bit at first, but you can see here in 2022. Actually, yeah, this was in the bear market. In the bear market, Polygon outperformed Ethereum for a while. But let me see if I can pull up the more data here. Yeah, I had to go and just create the chart myself because there's no real good data out there. But you can see this huge green wick in 2019. Matic, it flags for a while and then just takes off. And here it is flagging again. The flagging periods seem to get longer, and the spikes also seem to get less dramatic each time due to logarithmic regression. I don't think this time's going to be any different. I have full confidence that Polygon's going to outperform Ethereum after seeing the kind of strength it had against Bitcoin. There's, and I'm not even talking about the tech right now. We have Polygon's aggregator layer, which pretty much gets rid of the need for bridging, and you've got ZK EVM, which is already functional. There's so many bullish developments for Polygon that I could spend a whole other hour talking about. That to really fade it right now, I think is a huge mistake. Not financial advice, and I am a huge owner of it, but still, I don't know how you can fade the most innovative thing in crypto right now. I mean, Matic's ASO for Bitcoin. This is Matic Bitcoin on the monthly. The bear market, it's in full swing, folks, and I think the highest the ASO usually goes is to around 80. This is some huge bearishness. Just imagine when this thing collapses, though. That is going to be extremely bullish for Polygon. You can almost see why we're likely to have a very explosive move to the upside just kind of out of nowhere against Bitcoin because of how incredibly sharp this slope is. If this were a green chart, I'd be like, let's exit. Let's roll our Polygon over to Bitcoin but no, this is the opposite. This is me saying, like, if I've got Bitcoin, parking it in Ethereum and Polygon might make a lot of sense right now if I can deal with a little bit of short-term pain, because man, that thing is gonna crater, and that's a good thing when it's red. Snabble RSI just had a double bottom here in looks like June of 23, October of 23, and it looks like we're heading back down. I wouldn't be surprised to see this slice through. The underside, I would just be really bullish if it did that. Matic has come a long way, but look how high it got during the bull market against Bitcoin. I mean, it almost hit damn near 100. Now, Optimism has been holding up fairly well against Bitcoin. It's actually been in a nice flag, and that's a little bit surprising. But then again, Optimism is on Base, and Base has been doing extremely well. Optimism has a great community. They got a lot of backing and support from Coinbase. Got some great projects, so good for them. Good for Optimism. I do not hold Optimism, although I feel like I probably should, but I don't for whatever reason. I really don't know which way this is going to break just staring at this chart, and honestly, I don't spend a lot of time looking at it, so I'm kind of talking through this as I'm going here. We probably should pull up a shorter time frame because I can't even get a good weighted logarithmic Bollinger Band on this. Let's pull up the weekly. You can see on the weekly, we've just been kind of consolidating and building up to something. Whether that's a dump or a pump, I don't know. Just looking at this chart, I can't tell. What I can tell you is the Gaussian channel went red in October, but Optimism is a fairly new asset. So generally speaking, you don't go red for very long on your first go around, and this is very likely, it looks like it already might be inflecting, and then you just kind of shoot up from there. So based on what I'm seeing here, I'd say up is more likely than down. Now keep in mind it is a newer asset, so it's inherently more risky than Ethereum or Polygon, but it does look strong. Optimism is quite volatile against Ethereum, but its Gaussian turned green. It had that, see that inflection it had? That's what I'm thinking is coming with Bitcoin. I'm thinking it's going to be something like that. So this looks very bullish to me. Time will tell, but this looks bullish. Let's look at the average sentiment oscillator against Bitcoin and the Snabble RSI, just like we did with Polygon, to see what we have showing there. So there's insufficient data for me to look at the 2 week or the 1 week, 2 week or the 1 month to make any sense out of it. But you can see that the most bearish time for Optimism really started down here in February of 2023, and it kind of ended in July of 2023. So you had period of 4 or 5 months to really accumulate Optimism at bargain prices, And ever since then, it's been fairly bullish. You did have some sideways consolidation, for the last half of 2023, and then it just kind of exploded upwards, but that kind of fell apart as we would expect with Bitcoin taking off. And now it's kind of back in consolidation mode. So this could be, this is Optimism ETH, not Optimism Bitcoin. Still a good one to look at. Let's look at Optimism Bitcoin though. So imagine it looks fairly similar. Yeah. So for Optimism Bitcoin, it's pretty much the same story. But yeah, so you can see that we did lose our bullish momentum, and now we're kind of in sideways land. So if I were looking to take some Bitcoin profits somewhere, and I wanted a more risky play than Polygon, or more risky even than Ethereum, Optimism might look like a good place to park some money. Snabble RSI actually looks really good considering the circumstances. We're maintaining this trend line. Now, I don't know that trend line will hold. There's only 2 data points on it. This does look like it wants to roll over again, to be quite honest with you. The lowest we got was in June of 2023. We got down to 10. So I don't know that we'll have a double bottom there. I think that's kind of unlikely, but we could come back and test the trend line and then take off from there. So I would expect that Optimism would take off a little more aggressively than Polygon against Bitcoin. So if we look at Arbitrum against Bitcoin, it looks pretty bad. A little concerning for a newer asset to be suffering this kind of weakness when Optimism seems to be holding up fairly well. So it's kind of like, why would you hold Arbitrum if Optimism is doing so much better against Bitcoin? I wouldn't hold Arbitrum, wouldn't touch it. I'd hold Optimism. But yeah, you can see that Arbitrum just kind of sliced right through. No trouble at all, sliced right through this trend line. It's probably going to turn the Gaussian channel red. I do think Arbitrum will run at some point, and it may run very aggressively, but the chart speaks for itself, folks. I mean, just compare the ASO of Arbitrum Bitcoin to Optimism Bitcoin. Not even a comparison. It's just so much bearishness compared to the bullishness with Optimism. I'm rather pessimistic about Arbitrum and optimistic about Optimism. Snapple RSI is already below 20. Again, look at that sharp curve down. I don't like this. I just don't like this. It's like, it's clear who the winner is here. It's clear that Optimism looks better. Now you'll notice that my focus has been on the altcoins against Polygon. The altcoins against Bitcoin and Ethereum. But I think it also makes sense to look at them against the US dollar to kind of close things out. So this is Matic against the US dollar, and you can see that it broke out of this trend. This is kind of what I think Optimism might do against Bitcoin. And it's now in the upper part of the channel of the monthly Bollinger Band. And it managed to actually find support. And this is very strong support, by the way, when you can maintain the median line of the Gaussian channel. And again, I'm looking at the wrong time frame here. Let me pull up some more data real quick. Somehow I am ending up with the wrong chart on Polygon. I think I just hit enter too soon when I was pulling up the index. But look at those Bollinger Bands are squeezing on the monthly. On the monthly, they're squeezing, folks. On the monthly. And what happened the last time we had a squeeze on the monthly? We rocketed up. So I just think it's a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. Let's take a look at the measured move from bottom to top. Again, we had 5 green months in a row. So that is impressive for Polygon. Well, actually, yeah, 5 green months in a row. But that move was a 170x move. So I think, I'm not much into price predictions because I don't know really the best way to predict prices, but we're not going to see that kind of move. But let's say that we saw, I don't know, I think we could see a 12x move. I think we could see Matic potentially at, $16, $17, $18. It just depends on how long this is going to take. You don't think it can happen? It can happen. I've heard somebody say it could go as high as $20. If you don't think it can happen, it can happen. Now, of course, to get that high, either Bitcoin and Ethereum need to be at some insanely high valuations, or Polygon flips Ethereum. Now, I know that sounds completely outlandish. You probably think this guy's crazy. He's a permabull. I'm not a permabull on Polygon. It took some convincing for me to really get bullish on Polygon, but when I've seen what they're developing, go ahead and research what they're developing and look at their ecosystem. And you will not be able to stop looking, because you'll just say, oh my gosh, so they're involved with IMX. Oh, they're also involved with, they're also involved with they're doing a lot of GameFi. They're also involved with all kinds of different projects. So here's some partnerships that are not crypto related: Nike, Starbucks, MasterCard, Adobe, Disney, Meta, Adidas, Mercedes, Reddit, Google Cloud. OKX is another one. X1, their native layer 1, and Dogechain is another one that's going to be using Polygon. I already mentioned IMX. There's just a bunch of chains that are going to be using the aggregator layer, and you can kind of see how it works here. These are roll-ups, and basically on the ag layer you have a unified bridge contract which brings true interoperability amongst all kinds of different chains, making layer 1s like less relevant, and layer 2s are kind of the new layer 1s for this cycle. So I think we're going to see a layer 2 season develop because of Polygon. Well, mainly because of Ethereum, but you know what I mean. So there's so many reasons to be bullish on this, and I'm trying to explain to you why my price prediction may seem a little outlandish, but I don't think it is, because if Polygon achieves what it's been setting out to do, there's no limit to how high that price is going to go. Well, there is, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I think Polygon could hit the $18 to $20 range. That would probably be the highest I could see it going. Realistic targets probably anywhere between $12 to $15. You want to be conservative, then maybe 10. I hear a lot of people calling for $6. I personally think it's going to do a lot more than that. I know it has a very high market cap, but you ain't seen nothing yet. Holy moly, Optimism looks bullish. I mean, just look at this. Higher high after higher high, higher low after higher low. It's in a giant flag. This thing is going to rip. I don't even know how high this thing might go, but this thing is going to friggin' rip. Yeah, I have no clue. You saw what Polygon did last cycle. I don't think Optimism will do that high of a multiple, compared to Polygon last cycle, because every project coming in with a higher market cap this time around, you have overall diminishing returns. But this is the weekly Gaussian. It's just started to turn up. So I think the train for Optimism is going to be leaving pretty soon, if I had to guess. Again, I don't own any. I have no Optimism. It's one of those things, right? Homophone or something like that, where you say something and mean something else. But yeah, I'm absolutely bullish. This looks like a giant accumulation zone right here. What Optimism has going for it that is so bullish is a super chain dev console. So they aim to be one of the most decentralized chains in the business. And so you can see this is a one-stop shop for aggregated tools and promotions. The Optimism Collective's new superchain developer console makes it easier than ever for developers to build and grow their businesses across the superchain. And so it makes it easy or accessible to launch your app on it, whether you're deploying across Ethereum, Base, Fractal, Mode, the OP mainnet, Redstone, Lisk, or Zora. No shortage of ways to scale. They've got rollups, just like Polygon. And yeah, I mean, it's just another powerhouse of an ecosystem that I don't feel has been fully realized yet. So, it's $4 right now, but who knows what its final price will be. I have to look at its market cap, which I don't have memorized. I think it's pretty high, but let's go take a look. So it has a market cap of $4 billion. Circulating supply, it looks like about 1 billion out of a total supply of 4.3 billion. So it's got that inflation that I don't like, but that doesn't seem to be affecting its growth much at all. I haven't looked at their token unlock schedules, but that's something you should do. Definitely look at that before you buy Optimism. That is something I do criticize projects for. But Polygon was like this in the beginning as well. So about 25% of its circulating supply is available. Looking at the charts though, it certainly doesn't look like there's anything bearish to look at with it. I mean, even here on CoinMarket, it's just up, up, up. It looks like it's about to explode. So yeah, I mean, inflation may affect it at some point in a negative way, but it also depends on how much activity that they get on the chain, and honestly, like with the idea of a super chain and all the partnerships that they're forming, I think Optimism is going to be a major powerhouse in the crypto space. Poor Arbitrum, even against the US dollar, it doesn't look that impressive compared to Optimism. In fact, we're falling through the median line, although we are trying to test it, so maybe we can get back above it. But it just doesn't look as impressive. Why is that? So here's the Arbitrum website, and they are also calling themselves a super chain. They've got Arbitrum Rollup, they've got Arbitrum AnyTrust, which is a high security solution. So they're trying to tackle the trilemma problem, like many projects are. Honestly, they have a lot of promising, they're very, Arbitrum has a lot more going for it on paper than Optimism does when you compare the two of them, in terms of just all aspects of their development. But sentiment for Arbitrum has not been great because of actions taken by the DAO. You can see that there were some issues with the Tornado Cash trial fundraiser, and what I've heard, is that Arbitrum's DAO has been kind of using their voting power, the top holders, to really kind of not make it the way a DAO should run. So to kind of to force majority opinions on issues, and to make people who are part of the DAO not feel like they're being included in the decisions. So I think that has been probably the main thing to hold Arbitrum back. Because if you just look at the tech in Arbitrum, it's fantastic. In fact, there's a comparison chart that even shows you kind of compares Optimism to Arbitrum. Let me see if I can pull that up. You can see here what are the main differences between Optimism and Arbitrum. They both use optimistic rollup technology to scale Ethereum, but their main difference is that Optimism uses a single sequencer to process transactions, so their focus is just on keeping things simple, whereas Arbitrum uses a multi-round dispute resolution mechanism, and this allows for increased transaction throughput, but it does slow things down. Although it is, an enhancement to the security compared to Optimism. Transaction fees are obviously going to be lower than Ethereum. That's what a layer 2 is good at doing, because the computations are done off-chain, taking the load off of Ethereum. That's the whole idea behind rollups. Scalability solutions presented. How do they improve upon Ethereum? I think we've already talked about that. So the advantage of each layer 2 solution depends on their priorities. So what I've read is it just depends on what the developer's goals are. So what's most important to you? Cost, transaction speed, or security? You're going to get lower fees and increased transaction speeds compared to Ethereum. ZK Sync employs ZK rollups, but it has different infrastructural complexities and ecosystem support. But anyways, you can see here in this comparison of Optimism versus Arbitrum from a Medium article, and I've seen this elsewhere too. I'm still trying to find the original article that I found last year. But when it comes to fraud proofs, network performance, virtual machine, programming languages, and token usage, honestly, Arbitrum seems to win in all those categories. It seems to beat Optimism on tech. But Optimism wins in other areas that are not necessarily technical. So again, the main technical difference between the two chains is that Optimism uses single-round fraud proofs, whereas Arbitrum uses multi-round fraud proofs. So basically, Optimism uses a faster method, but potentially more expensive, whereas Arbitrum's is slower, but it's more cost-effective and secure. We just talked about that earlier. Optimism uses EVM, whereas Arbitrum has AVM. So Optimism is limited to Solidity. Arbitrum supports, as you saw earlier, many different EVM programming languages. So from a retail standpoint, I don't think there's really much of a difference at all that you would even notice, but from a technical standpoint, there is. So I guess it just comes down to the question of why would somebody choose something that's technically somewhat inferior, which is Optimism, over Arbitrum, which seems to be a lot, just a lot better of a software solution. So this article from CoinMarketCap even says Arbitrum is the winner. So I think it just comes down to probably sentiment, really, is the reason why Optimism has been outperforming Arbitrum. And I'll see if I can even do an OP versus ARB chart so you can see that for yourself. This is Optimism versus Arbitrum. I mean, on the weekly, what does it look like to you? Optimism is clearly outperforming Arbitrum, despite the fact that Arbitrum has the better tech, arguably. Sentiment matters. So, keep that in mind. Returning to Ethereum, like I was saying, I think ETH season is at most 2 months away. And given that we're already almost in the end of March, maybe you could even argue less than that. So that's my bet. My bet is by May, June the latest, the absolute latest, Ethereum will have turned the corner. It will be slicing through its red Gaussian channel to the upside, and maybe the Gaussian will turn green sometime later in the year, but most of the impulsive moves are going to happen early on. And you can see right here, back in when the Gaussian inflected around there, September of 2019, we had a nice bounce and then put in a double bottom and then just sliced pretty much right through into 2020. Now, we're in a different time period. The market conditions are different than they were in 2019 and 2020. We have diminished volatility, diminished, returns. So I don't think we're going to see a move that's like straight up like this, but I think we'll see more of a move that's a little bit more at an angle. But I think, that there's a decent chance that we at least test this high of roughly 0.09, and maybe we even take it out. Ethereum could be an outperformer against Bitcoin in the long run. So just something to watch. So what are our key takeaways from today's video? That if you hold Ethereum, Polygon, Optimism, or Arbitrum, especially if you hold Ethereum, Polygon, or Arbitrum, you should anticipate that there's probably going to be some more weakness coming in their Bitcoin pairs and ETH pairs for the ones that are not Ethereum, probably for the coming few months. Maybe at least another, 1 to 3 months at most. Then I think you'll see things turn around in a dramatic way. And so if you pay attention to what people are telling us about Polygon and about, Arbitrum, about Ethereum, Optimism actually looks fairly good. But, anyways, you can kind of get the gist. If the Ethereum ecosystem in general is getting faded right now, and I think that's a sign that we're probably in the anger, to depression phase of the market cycle for those projects, especially against Bitcoin. And that tells me we're probably closer to the end of a bear market than we are to the beginning. And so this is probably a good zone to be DCAing into if you want to exchange some of your Bitcoin for something very undervalued that has a lot of upside potential. It's not financial advice, but I'd say go for it with these layer 2s or Ethereum. And just because Arbitrum's chart doesn't look great right now doesn't mean that it won't do something dramatic later. So even though it's kind of like a laggard, it could outperform Optimism at some point. Okay, it's crypto, folks. Anything can happen. If I had to just make a decision today, I had a big chunk of money and I wanted to, it depends on what kind of money that was. Was it Bitcoin? Was it USD or whatever? But regardless, I would probably be putting the majority of it into Ethereum or Polygon, and then the rest of it would go into, I'd have a smaller position in Optimism, and I'd probably maybe a tiny position in Arbitrum as a hedge, just in case it outperforms later on. Because right now, Optimism's clearly the winner. Clearly the winner. So again, just to remind you, I do own Polygon, and I do not own Optimism, nor do I own Arbitrum at the making of this video. So thank you for joining me in the crypto simulation. I'm the Gaussian Snake. Be sure to follow me on Telegram at the Snake Pit. The spelling is right there. I have links in the video description. Be sure to check out my Twitter and TikTok as well. And I will see you again here next time. Bye.